and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll meet the In the Chips woodcarvers from Moorhead, Minnesota. But first, joining me now is the District Director of the North Dakota Small Business Administration, Alan Hout. Alan, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, as we get started, we always ask, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, maybe your background.
Sure. I grew up in central North Dakota. I come from a long line of small business owners. My great-grandfather started a hardware store in Gackle, North Dakota. Led, oddly enough, to my father running a funeral business that's still in my family today. And I grew up, spent most of my time in Jamestown before coming to school down in Fargo-Moorhead area. Graduated from Moorhead State in a few years ago. Started at the Small Business Administration right out of college. Spent the last 31 years there, most of it in the finance area. That's kind of my expertise is in lending, and became the district director about 3 years ago.
Okay, so you've been around this organization for a few years. So but obviously we want to talk a little bit about the COVID pandemic and how it's impacted businesses, and maybe especially small businesses. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, you know, the pandemic has been devastating for a lot of businesses, you know, especially hard-hit industries like the restaurant, hospitality industry. Just about every sector has been affected. Now, some worse than others. There's actually a few sectors that are doing quite well. My son actually works for a company that does a lot of wood refinishing and leads to a lot of DIY projects. And a lot of people sitting at home nowadays and thinking about what I should be improving on the house and ordering products like that. So some sectors are doing well.
Well, you say that. I think, yeah, a lot of do-it-yourself home projects are getting done. But talk about your organization and what kinds of help or support can small businesses get from the Small Business Administration?
So overall, the SBA provides assistance to people who want to get started in their business, expand their business, or recover, in this case, from disasters. And we have a cadre of programs traditionally to help businesses start. We have resource programs that can advise entrepreneurs on properly starting their business, how to get financing, how to do marketing, advertising, the gamut of it. And then we work with the finance programs. We work with local lenders to provide guaranteed loans to help businesses get started or expand. But most of the topic nowadays is around the disaster recovery efforts from the pandemic, and SBA was a major player in the CARES Act with the Paycheck Protection Program. And we're the conduit to help get those funds from Treasury to the business owners that need it. And the whole idea behind the Paycheck Protection Program was to keep employees on the payrolls, keep them off the unemployment lines, and help those businesses by keeping the employees on staff, keeping them committed to the business, and hopefully keep the business operating during that time.
Yeah, and many of those loans are going to end up being forgiven, I think I understand?
Yes. So if the business used the funds for their intended purposes, most of it's payroll, and then there's a certain percentage for non-payroll expenses, utilities, rent, interest payments on certain debts. If they used those funds for those intended purposes within a specific time frame, started out at 8 weeks, it has since been extended to 24 weeks. But if the business can support that they've used the funds for their intended purposes within the intended time frame, they can request forgiveness, again, through their local lender, and then SBA will forgive the loans.
Yeah. Well, obviously that legislation people have already taken advantage of. Can you update us on any, I guess, new federal legislation that's in the works that may be coming to give more relief for businesses?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about a third stimulus package, and as a career federal employee, I don't get involved with the politics of the legislations per se. I don't lobby or can't lobby, but I will say that there is talk about a third stimulus package. We've heard rumor that it might be targeted to some of these harder hit industries like the hospitality industry. That's all yet to be determined by Congress. One note that I would like to make, though, from the Paycheck Protection Program, there's a lot of talk about a streamlined forgiveness for loans under $150,000. Some people have even suggested that it's just going to wipe the slate clean for any borrower that has a loan under $150,000. But the congressional staffers that I'm visiting with have all indicated that that's not the case. It's not going to just wipe clean, that there is going to be a certain assertion that the borrower must sign that says, again, they've used the funds for their intended purposes in the intended time frame, and they're going to have to be able to support that, that letter of assertion for 6 years. So they're going to have the paperwork to back it all up. My suggestion is, if you're doing the paperwork so you can support it, you might as well submit it to your lender and get the forgiveness process started now.
Sure. You know, are you able to quantify, you know, how many businesses have closed and estimate how many businesses may end up closing?
Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate, but there's 600 and some thousand businesses in North Dakota and Minnesota, and not all of them are going to make it through this pandemic. There's some studies that have suggested that in certain disasters related more towards flooding or tornadoes and things like that, that upwards of 25% of businesses may not survive the disaster. I think that's a little high. I think with the stimulus plans that have come in, the recovery efforts that have come in, I don't think it'll be quite that high, but it's unfortunate. Some won't make it. I don't have a specific quantity, but.
Yeah. Well, can you even comment on another issue here surrounding big box stores, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, how they were, I guess, essential businesses and allowed to stay open while other small businesses were asked to shut down?
Yeah, the essential business definition was or is kind of confusing. That's a state designation, so I guess I'd have to refer that specifically to the state officials. My understanding, though, is it was more targeted towards certain industries like the beauty salons, beauticians, things like that, restaurants. Most retail stores, I believe, were still deemed essential and could still operate.
Okay. You know, SBA, people just think of small business loans, and maybe that's it. So what kinds of programs does your organization administer? Sure,
and thank you. We are known for the loan program. That's kind of our bread and butter, but we do have a variety of other programs to help small businesses or people who want to just get started in business. We have what we call our counseling programs, where we have different organizations that we help support, provide funding to, that provide one-on-one guidance or advising to people who want to get started in their own business. So you have a business idea and you're not exactly sure what to do, you can call up one of our organizations such as SCORE, Counselors to America's Small Business, the North Dakota Women's Business Center, the Small Business Development Center of North Dakota, or even the Veterans Business Outreach Center of the Dakotas. All of these organizations have some support by SBA, and they're deemed one of our SBA resource partners, and can provide free one-on-one assistance to people who want to get either started in business for themselves, or if they're in business and want to expand, or for those businesses that are struggling right now with COVID, that these organizations can help them maybe talk about pivot ideas, retooling ideas, remarketing ideas to help them survive the pandemic and hopefully be successful, thriving afterwards.
Well, this question probably, I don't want to position it around COVID entirely, but you know, you may be able to bake a great cookie or create a great pretzel, but how difficult is it to start a small business and have it succeed?
Well, two questions, right? Starting the business is not difficult at all. Register your trade name with the Secretary of State and you're in business. So the successful part is a little bit more challenging, but the reality is it's not that difficult either. Now, I think you need to have a good business idea, make sure your pretzels taste good and has a broad market appeal. Make sure you have a good business plan that shows how you're going to market your pretzels, a good team behind you that can support you, especially if you have weaknesses in financial management or marketing, what have you. Have a good team that can help support you, and make sure that business plan addresses how much money you need to get that business from point zero to the successful point you want it to be. So in reality, it seems maybe a little harsh and ominous, but it's really not that difficult. And again, our resource partners do an excellent job of helping clients get through that process.
Okay. Are you finding that people are starting businesses during COVID here, or are a lot of people very cautious right now?
Actually, that's a great question. And to my surprise, in visiting with our resource partners, they say most of their activity right now is on general startup business activities. So I was expecting it to be a lot of COVID recovery type stuff, and they're, multiple of our resource partners are saying, no, a bulk of our business is still. People just, they see an opportunity out there and they want to take advantage of it. The people are working now. A lot of times when you have high unemployment, you have people sitting around thinking that I need to do something to make money, so I'm going to start a business to make money and support my family. But it seems like right now a lot of the clients coming in, they have their jobs and are just looking at different opportunities to take advantage of in the future.
Yeah. I'm hesitant sometimes to say in retrospect or hindsight, Monday morning quarterback, whatever you want to call it. Could things have been done differently to help small businesses during the past few months, obviously?
Yeah, you know, hindsight's always 20/20, right? But you know, I'm certainly glad that I wasn't in those positions to have to make those tough decisions. And you know, I don't fault any of the decisions that were made. You know, maybe in hindsight, did we pull the plug too quick to shut things down in North Dakota in March and April? So, you know, maybe we'd slow things down a little bit in the spring, and then we could slow the rollout again now as the numbers seem to be going up. Maybe if we'd have kept things a little more even keeled, we'd have been better off. But
yeah, and you know, as we're recording this today, things keep changing and will change probably by the time people see this interview. But is there any light at the end of the tunnel yet, or what are you hearing or seeing?
You know, I'm a positive guy by nature, so I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think business owners are resilient. They're surviving now. They're making their pivot decisions to keep their businesses operational. They're making the changes to their operations for social distancing, and you know, restaurants are now doing a lot of takeout orders and things like that. Different things that they maybe didn't do so much in the past. And they're being resilient, and I think North Dakotans are resilient people, and we're supportive. So when things turn around and start rolling out, I think there's going to be some pent-up demand, and I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, again, coming after the first of the year, maybe we get a vaccination, and I think in the coming months things will start turning around and looking up.
Yeah. So you mentioned some businesses. Which ones were hit the hardest, do you think, during the COVID situation, and it sounds like you are still pretty bullish for business in North Dakota?
Yeah, like I said, I love North Dakota, and I think we're going to rebound quite well. Some of the businesses that unfortunately are continuing to struggle are that hospitality industry, the restaurants, the hotels. You know, the hotels across North Dakota, and they rely on occupancy, and when your average occupancy is down around 20 to 30%, and your break even is probably at 40%, that's a tough pill to swallow. But again, they've done a nice job of trying to pivot as well, and do their advertising for social distancing. And I think North Dakota was very fortunate that we're a wide open state, so people looked at us as a opportunity for tourism and a safe environment, and I think that's helped. I think that hospitality industry will continue to be slow for a little bit, but I think they'll rebound as well. And I think the restaurants, same thing, they're pivoting now, and will continue to find a safe and effective way to operate and continue forward.
Well, let's talk a little bit about a loan, because that's what you're known for. What do businesses have to go through in applying for a loan through the Small Business Administration?
So in our traditional standpoint, not disaster related, our loan programs are guaranteed loans through local lenders. So that business owner needs to develop a loan proposal or a business plan that shows how much money they need, what they're going to use the money for, and most importantly, how they're going to repay that money. Is it going to be a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year? What's their income cycle going to be, their cash flow that's going to generate enough cash that's available to make those debt payments? And then take that information, visit with a local lender, a local bank or community credit union, and apply for the loan with them. The lender will then review the application, and startup businesses are risky by nature, so they might need a little credit enhancement, and that can come from SBA. So the lender will actually contact the SBA for the guarantee.
Mm-hmm. And with a business plan, do you have somebody there that would help somebody with something like that?
Certainly. All of our resource partners, the SCORE, SBDC, Women's Business Center, and Veterans Business Outreach Center, all can provide assistance in helping entrepreneurs develop their business plan. They're not going to do it for them, but they can help provide the guidance, provide the outline, review it for them, make suggestions for making it better.
Okay. Well, what about any success stories you might have, especially during these past few months during the COVID situation?
Yeah, a couple businesses come to mind. One is Dakota Micro. They're a manufacturing company out of Cayuga, North Dakota. They make rugged camera systems for the ag industry, industrial or commercial industry, and wildly successful out of Cayuga. And Charissa Ruby is our small business person of the year for 2020, and used a variety of programs. And most recently, she got a Paycheck Protection loan to help support her payroll. They saw some decline in sales when things started to slow down in the spring, but she was able to use the Paycheck Protection Program to keep people on staff, keep production going, and is rebounding well. Another one that comes to mind is Troy Durheim with My Aquatic Services, Small Business Week winner in 2019. And Troy's got a great little business making swimming pools and therapeutic hot tubs. And kind of the same scenario, worried about when things kind of slow down in the spring, how does he keep his staff? And he treats his staff like family, and the Paycheck Protection Program was allowed him to keep his staff on their payroll, keep them paid, and they really appreciated that, and he feels like they're more dedicated than ever to his companies.
Speaking of staff, how many staff do y'all have at your organization, the SBA?
Yeah, I have 6 staff across North Dakota, 2 outstate, and 4 currently in the Fargo office.
Okay. And are y'all working from home or out in the fields or in the office?
Kind of a modified approach. So with the pandemic, we all started working from home. A lot of what we do is telephone and video conference and emails, helping banks understand the programs and get through the process. And so we closed down in the spring, but now we're just rotating one person through the office every week just to keep it open.
What's the best part of your job?
You know, growing up in a small business, I love small businesses, and I get a real kick out of helping small businesses get to the next level.
Okay. Well, if people want more information, where can they go? Who can they contact?
You know, the best way is to reach out to or go out to our website, sba.gov, G-O-V, /ND for the North Dakota side, and sba.gov/MN for the Minnesota side.
And all the forms and everything's there for them to figure out what to do next.
Information is there about our resource partners, how to contact them, and information about our loan program. So,
well, Al, we're out of time today, but thanks so much, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Stay tuned for more. Larry Longtine and Barry Kutzler are master wood carvers who can be found at their In the Chips business in Moorhead, Minnesota. The detail with which they carve is extraordinary, and their warmth and jovial natures have made them very popular.
When I get a good piece of wood and a nice sharp tool, just the sound of that tool going through the wood, there's just no better sound in the world.
It started out strictly as a hobby. We had been doing some craft work and stuff as a hobby too. But when this carving came up, and I was a police officer, and if I worked until midnight, I'd get home. And some days were a little more stressful than others. And the family would be sleeping when I got home. I'd go down in my shop in the lower level of our house, take out my knife and a stick, and I'd sit there and carve. and it would really calm me down. It came about as a full-time thing when I had a back injury on the police department and I took retirement at 50 years old. Carving was one of the things I could do because I can do it different paces, different shapes, bend different, very flexible.
It was in the late 90s. I started doing diamond willow walking sticks. And to dress them up a little bit, I started trying to put faces on them. And unfortunately, the faces were not very good. They looked more like the statues on Easter Island than really the faces I wanted. I figured, well, if I'm going to do this, I should learn to do it right. So I went to a local carving club meeting and said, I'd like to learn how to wood carve if there's anybody that would like to teach me. Larry was a member of the club, and for most of his time he lived out at Lake Ida, and he had a wood shop out there, sold wood carving tools and so forth. And every Thursday he would have open carving, and so carvers from all around the area would drive out there and sit around in the wood shop and carve and tell stories, and it was just a really fun. So that's how I got to know him. And then when he went into this place, this venture, I approached him with an idea of if I would help with the maintenance and cleaning and so forth, could I have a space here to use as a studio? And he was gracious enough to give it to me, and I've been considering myself very lucky since.
In the chips kind of came off from a little plaque we have. It said, wood carvers are always in the chips. So when we were picking a name, it just came out that In the Chips should be a good name for a carving shop.
I like to do the human form, the human face, and so forth. If you looked at my carvings, you find very few animals. I do occasionally do an animal, but my passion is the human face, the human form. I enjoy seeing what I can do with it. When I do a face or a carving, like of a human, putting the eyes in, that's when they come alive, when you put in the eyes. That's what makes me happy. I never keep track of how long it takes. If I had to guess, the wizard would probably have taken me 60, 70 hours.
I have really taken a big interest in the merry-go-round or carousel. And I grew up thinking that all merry-go-rounds had horses on them. Well, if you get away from the upper Midwest, there's all kinds of animals on them. From one of the factories down in Kansas, the story there is that they put all horses on theirs because their carousels were in the upper Midwest. Kids didn't ride chickens and stuff like that up here. They rode horses. So they kept horses on theirs. I'll take a streak where I really enjoy one thing and then I go to another. The latest fad was really the carousel critters. I refer to carousel horses, but when you do giraffes and elephants and lions and tigers, you should start referring to critters rather than horses. I spent 25 years working on the merry-go-round at Steam Thrasher Hill and Rolog, trying to restore that one. They've been fun for me. My preferred wood is basswood, also referred to as linden wood.
Obviously, basswood is the go-to wood for carvers, but I do a lot of things in butternut. And I also do a lot of things in cottonwood bark. That's kind of a fun wood to carve. Once you get past the outside, that's pretty rough. The inside is really very carvable. Well, I was first diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was about 25. I'm just a shade short of 74 now. It's not gotten any better. It just keeps getting a little worse. It slows me down. I don't work as fast as other carvers. I don't work in the same way. A lot of carvers, especially when they're doing something really small, will hold it. I can't do that. I just don't have the strength in my hands. So anything I carve, I have to have fastened down.
I do like to carve things kind of my way. I will look at something for a reference, but I don't always try to make it look exactly like that one. I think carving should be fun. It should not be serious. When I was teaching classes, I'd so often get a carver in there that would be upset because their carving wasn't coming out looking like mine. And I would try to explain, no, it won't look like mine. If you keep carving, someday it'll probably look better than mine. So I started carrying my first carving with me to classes. And when I got that comment, I'd bring this out and I'd hold it up and say, see, my first carving doesn't look like mine either. And trying to encourage them that that's one of the big fun things about carving is you keep changing and improving. Carving is just a fun thing to do. You need a little knife and a stick of wood. It's a very calming thing to do.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Post this week. As always, thanks for watching.
Funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.